What's up everybody, it's Victon. This is going to be a special build guide. It's probably a once in a lifetime build that we're all only going to get to play this league in Crucible League, as it can only happen because of the Crucible trees. I'm sure you've heard about it before, as it is the talk of the town right now. It's the exploding totem build that does giga damage. That being said, I did not invent this build, but this is my take on it based off of a ton of research between different versions of it. I'm going to link a video of the main one that I took inspiration from, so check out his channel if you're interested. He did a great job piecing together some of these concepts. It's definitely worth a watch. So my goal here was I wanted to bring you guys a build that can start cheap, spending less than 4 divines on the budget version of the build, while still being able to kill all uber pinnacle bosses, and then build up to the absolute beast that is the billion plus damage titan that it is. And yes, I did say billions with a B there. As you can see in the gameplay showcase, it cleared every single uber pinnacle boss by taking them from 100% to either 0 instantly or in under 1 second. It's the most damage I've ever seen a build do in Path of Exile. But how much is this big boy, you might ask? Well, fear not, the in-game version of the build only costs around 30 to 40 divines. While that might sound expensive compared to some of these other top builds out there, that's really not too bad at all. And wait, there is more. Not only do we have a billion plus damage, we're also pretty dang tanky. We're ailment immune, have super leech, spell suppress capped, and a determination to round out some decent armor. I've actually not died a single time in any map, other than a few times to Uber Cyrus because F that guy, and once to the Feared because I literally flame dashed right into Cheula like a nub. 0 deaths on over 20 Uber Shaper runs, 0 deaths on about 10 or 11 Uber Elder runs, 0 death in Uber Cortex, and Uber Maven is a complete joke. You can literally skip all of her memory game phases. We do so much damage. Like, what is this madness? I mean, all around, it's honestly one of the best Path of Exile builds in history, and I highly suggest you guys try it out this league before it's gone forever. And that is where I come in. I've got you guys covered on everything you need to know about this build, from leveling it up to the POB, where I talk about why we choose Saboteur, which I think is the best ascendancy for the build. I've got the trade links for every single item that you're going to need in both the low budget and high budget versions of the build, and I'll even be releasing a video right after this on how to craft the in-game weapon. As of now, I have one of the, if not the best, cold conversion totem explode bow in Path of Exile, and you too can craft it with this guide, from both crafting the weapon itself to also crafting the perfect 4-stat Crucible tree for it. So yeah, literally everything you need to know to get rolling and enjoy it while it lasts. Now, before we get started, if this video or any of my other content helps you out in any way, please hit that like and subscribe button. It would mean a ton to me, and it really does help out. I also have a Patreon where you can support the channel and get some juicy extra benefits, as well as an open community Discord for anyone with a ton of helpful people in it. I also do personal build reviews for certain tiers of Patreon. I spend quite a bit of time going through your build with you, so if you're interested in that, check that out as well. Alright guys, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, first thing that we're going to do is talk about the path of building and why I chose Saboteur. So first thing to note is kind of how I use my POBs and how you guys can use them, get the most out of them. First of all, if you want to level with this, I do have a couple notes in here, pretty small because it's honestly a super straightforward build to level. First and foremost, I do think you want to level as Spark up until level 28, and once you get to 28, you should go ahead and do Ice Trap. And you're going to do that until you get your bow, and whatever level you get your bow is when you're going to immediately be able to equip it. There's different levels that you can get bows. You can spend a little bit more and you can get really early bows. Like I've seen them. I actually had one that I leveled up with, which was an eye level 1 bow that had 400% increased totem explode. So I did that from level 1, and it was super smooth to level. Most people probably won't do that because there was literally only one on the market when I did it. Most of them come out around level 40. And those 40 ones can get that 400%, and they can also get a 600% note as well, I'm pretty sure. Either way, even if you have the 400%, that's totally fine. So once you get that bow, immediately equip it. You're going to be doing giga damage, and you're going to one-shot every single act boss, like it's not even a question. What you want to do, though, is once you get that bow, We are going to have the same gym links as in the guide, because I do think at this point in the league you should be able to use a tabula. I would get a tabula with +1 gyms while leveling. These are pretty cheap after the first week of the league, and this is where your main skill is going to go with that devouring totem. Okay, you're going to put the devouring totem in there, and you're absolutely just going to destroy everything. As far as your auras, what you actually do want to do when you're leveling up is you're going to be wanting to do Herald of Ash, Herald of Purity, and Hatred as your main 3 auras. That is once you get your bow, of course. If you really want, you can kind of just start doing that with, I mean, you know, maybe Hatred and Herald of Ice when you have your ice trap, and then kind of switch it once you get your bow. But yeah, once you do get all of those, the next things you're going to want to be doing around, I think it's around level 30 or so, you're going to be able to pick up Eldritch Battery. That's going to allow you to use your energy shield instead of your mana, and at that point we're going to start being able to use Discipline and also War Banner. Those are going to reserve all of your mana, which is fine because we're able to do that since we have Eldritch Battery, because casting our either ice traps or our totems is going to go off of the energy shield instead of your mana. Easy peasy as you're leveling. And then, yeah, like I said, right when you get that bow, equip it and start absolutely destroying. Really, really simple for leveling. Now, as far as the tree is concerned, I do have, if you want to come down here, the leveling path right here. And as you can tell, this is level 33, and then we go up to here 44. I mean, it's literally, oh, I think I just messed something up. Hold up. There we go. And then you go up to 71. I mean, it's literally like you're kind of just following a path as you go all the way. There's 88, here's 100, and here's the final, or here's 112, and here's the final, which you want to do right here. And then I think this is probably where most people are going to be before they transition to the high budget version, around right here with the 112 points. And I think that's like a level 89 or so. So yeah, so that is the path building and the tree itself. Not too much to talk about on the tree. We are getting some trap nodes here. We're getting some life nodes. This node right here, Energy Shield Mastery, 30% of chaos damage taken does not bypass Energy Shield. Don't get that until you have your Slave Driver gloves, which is the high budget version. In the low budget version, we're literally spending like 20 chaos on gloves. But yeah, we don't need that until we get the Slave Driver, so don't pick that one up. We do have some spell suppression here, some damage nodes here. Damage. These nodes are pretty strong because they are Herald nodes, and we do have 2 Herald nodes that we are using, so those are very good. This node is very important right here, this Cold Mastery. 40% of physical damage converted to cold damage. We are converting as much physical damage to cold damage with this build as possible. So if you guys don't know too much about the build, basically what is happening is we're throwing out devouring totems, which have the highest base life of any totem. And when we throw out enough totems, they're going to kind of cast over each other. And as they cast over each other, because you can only have a certain number out at a given time, they will explode during dealing as much physical damage as possible, right? So the 600% is what is on the bow that you really want. And that is, it's so much damage, right? And it's better to convert that physical damage to cold damage, because then we can scale it a lot better, mainly with, for example, Hatred, right? We can scale it with Hatred very, very well. So there's 40% right there. Very important. Keep that in mind. So we also do have some stuff over here. We got mana, we got live. Down here, these nodes are very important. We do get as much reservation as possible, reservation efficiency as possible, because we are using quite a few auras in this build, and you are not able to use them all unless you have these nodes right here alongside this mana mastery right here, which is 12% increase mana reservation efficiency for skills. Yeah, and then down here, we have these nodes here, and we have the last jewel socket. It's like I said, pretty straightforward. We'll talk about the clusters when we get into the items. So before we move on, let's talk about Saboteur, right? A lot of people are discussing whether Saboteur or Trickster is better. I personally think Saboteur is. Why do I think that? Well, first off, it's way, way cheaper than going the Trickster route. It used to be fine to do the Trickster route, and then people would get chain reaction with the Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame jewels. Those are now incredibly expensive. I think they're like 20 to 30 divines each, so you're looking at like 50 to 60 divines just to get chain reaction. That's bonkers, and it's just so not necessary. So what I would do is just go ahead and go Saboteur so you can get Chain Reaction, which is the absolute best Ascendancy node for this build, period. It literally doubles your damage, if not potentially even more than doubles your damage. So why does it do that? Skills used by traps, 50% increase AoE. Cool, not anything crazy here, but this is the big line. When your traps trigger, your nearby traps also trigger, right? So when you throw out a barrage of traps and let's say one gets triggered by the boss, normally without this, only that one is going to explode, and then your totems from just that one will explode, right? So good damage, sure, but you're throwing out so many traps, and we're stacking as many traps as we can so that when one of those trigger, they all trigger. And when they all trigger, all of your totems just start going popping like crazy, and you do so much damage. Like I said, it's potentially even more than double damage, just this single node alone. Okay, and there's also some other good stuff here too, right? So Pyromantic makes you immune to ignite and shock, and we are freeze immune with our I actually don't know if I put that in here. We are, let's see, Bandit Quest. We're going to kill all Major God. We are, here we go. So Soul of the Brine King. And then we're going to Captain Tanner Lightfoot down there. We're going to capture him. And I think that's in Coral Runes map, by the way. Well, 100% chance to avoid being frozen. So with that, we are ailment immune. And we also are going to regen some nice life by throwing out a ton of traps recently. So that's very nice there. The third node that we're going to get is this one right here, which is Like Clockwork. Pretty solid. This was a reworked node this league specifically. It gives 30% increased cooldown recovery rate, which in itself is quite nice. This other one is pretty crazy too. Nearby enemies have 10% reduced cooldown recovery rate. I think I heard them talk about in the initial video for the league that this can affect, for example, like Maven, and she can do less, potentially, there's a chance that she does less memory games, which would make sense because in my build, I'm able to literally skip every single memory phase that she has. I think mostly because my damage is so insane that the game literally just doesn't know how to react, and it kind of bugs out and she just falls over and dies. But this might have some effect on that too. So pretty good node there. The last node that you're going to get is Explosive Expert. Nothing too crazy here, honestly, because we're not critting with this build. So damage penetrates 10% resistances against chilled enemies. They're always going to be chilled. So it just penetrates 10% resist. Pretty solid. So overall, just a pretty great Ascendancy. What people are doing if they're going Trickster is they're getting this node here, Polymath, which is insane damage. They're also getting Escape Artist for some nice defenses, and they're getting Soul Drinker for pretty good damage, but also pretty good defenses as well, because you're going to be leeching Energy Shield, and that is not going to be removed when your Energy Shield is filled, right? So very, very good. That's good for both the Eldritch Battery version, but it's even better for the in-game version when you're using Slave Drivers, so that you are also, and Slave Drivers are the gloves, that allow you to not have to use Eldritch Battery, and also give all of that Energy Shield that you originally had to your main defense pool. And Soul Drinker with that is just crazy. It's very, very strong. And also they have one step ahead, which is also very good. So your action speed is at least 108% of value. So pretty strong there. Nearby monsters, action speed is at most 92. So they have less action speed. So pretty good all around. So yeah, I mean, Trickster is great, but I don't think it's anything crazy. I think it's, you know, some people are saying it's really good if you're able to get Chain Reaction. Like I said, it's too expensive. So what we're going to do is do the opposite. We're going to get all the juicy juice that comes from Saboteur, and we're going to spend a lot less on the Forbidden Jewels to get really anything you want in here. The best one is Polymath, because in my build, this node actually gives me 30% more damage in my final build. Crazy amount of damage, and also you're getting a ton of life and energy shield on kill, which is able to, it's so good for defense. In the Cortex video, if you were seeing that, I was getting so low sometimes, but because of Polymath, I was instantly going up to full HP, when I got low. So that's a very good node. This is the best one. It's going to depend on how much the price of these are. I think I bought mine for 1 divine each. I'm sure they're going to go up at this point, so kind of depends on that. The second best one that you want to do is Soul Drinker. These are even cheaper. I think these were like half a divine each, so pretty good for there. and if you want to try and get one step ahead, that's like the third best one. And then I would say Escape Artist is like the fourth best one, because it really doesn't do any damage, but it does give you quite a bit of defenses by having a ton of extra energy shield. So pretty solid there. So yeah, that's just the cheaper way to do it. You're getting Chain Reaction, which is the craziest node for this build, period. It's way better than anything that the Poison version of the build does with Pathfinder. It's way better than anything that comes with Chieftain. It's insane. It's more than double your damage. And it's like, I don't know how to explain this. It's real damage, right? There's some things, you know, you get some POB damage and it's, oh, it looks good on paper, but it's not that useful in a real like boss situation. This node is like pure instant DPS amazingness, right? So that is why, in my opinion, it's so much better. Because you're already so tanky. Like I said, I've almost never died in this build. I've never died mapping. So we have enough defenses to where we're chilling, doing all the content that you can in the game, defense-wise. And on top of that, we're doing the most DPS out of any build in these other ones. Pathfinder, Chieftain, it's way more damage than those. Way more damage than those builds. Sure, I think Pathfinder's probably the second best one in my opinion, because you're even more tanky. So maybe at this point you could be doing like 100% Delirium content or Wave 30 Simulacrums. So if you're interested in those two things, maybe the Pathfinder version, the Poison version, is a little bit better. I think honestly this would even be fine in those versions though. I haven't tested it yet though, because I've mainly done bossing and just kind of general mapping to do Crucible trees. But yeah, it's been totally fine defense wise. So yeah, that's why I think Saboteur, in my opinion, is the best. Moving on to our skills here, let's talk about these. So let's go down to Devouring Totem first, which is our main skill. We have Devouring Totem, like I said, because it has the most base HP for any totem. You do want to get as many levels in this thing as possible to boost up that base minimum HP on our totems, right? So you want a level 21 for sure, and you absolutely definitely want a 20% quality Devouring Totem, because that is some extra totem life. So very good to get a level 20, 21. Now we do want an Empower, again, because we are pushing as much life on our totems as possible. That is what is giving us the damage, is life and gem levels, or totem life, anything like that is what is the most damage for us, right? So in most of the clips that y'all saw in the beginning of the video, I actually had an Empower level 3 and a Enhance level 3. I only switched to a 4 towards the end, so maybe only a couple of the clips had the 4s. And it was obviously still totally fine damage. So just keep that in mind. If you don't have the 4s, it's honestly fine. We want to go with Trap, of course, and we want to go with Multi-Trap and Cluster Trap, again, because we're trying to throw out as many traps as possible to pop up as many totems as possible to then explode. Pretty straightforward there. Enhance is because that is giving us a ton of quality for our active skill gems. It's giving a ton of extra life for our Devouring Totem, and I think it's also giving, which one here? The Multi-Traps, which we're going with Anomalous, by the way. Anomalous Multi-Trap skills can have up to 2 additional traps placed at a time. Now, however, because we're doing Enhance, we can have another 2, so pretty good. We're getting as many traps out as possible. That's kind of what we're doing here, right? So for our auras, we're going to put this in our auras. This is for, and by the way, this is for the budget version of the build. I'm going to go over both versions. This is the budget version because it is very slightly different. Hatred, Discipline. I am going to put a portal. I just like portal gems. Herald of Purity. Pretty straightforward. Herald of Ash. We do have that in our helmet as a 1 link. The links are a little funky. We have also in our helmet, we have increased duration. Actually, we don't have increased duration. That doesn't make sense. Let's take that out. That is one thing. We actually do have a couple extra gem slots in this build. I think we have an extra either 2 or 3 gem slots which just have nothing in them. So you guys can honestly put whatever y'all want in them. I do like Cast on Death Portal. Like I said, I haven't even died. So I think I've died, like I said, during the bosses. So it literally didn't even matter. But if I was to ever die, a Cast on Death Portal is pretty nice. So I put that in there because I have extra gem slots for no reason. Body armor. So this is another thing that's nice about this build. You actually don't need a 6-link body armor. You can get a 4-link or 5-link body armor and you're totally chilling. So what I have here is a 3-link. I have a Flame Dash, Life Tap, Molten Shell. Do keep that in mind that we do need Life Tap on all of our abilities that use mana, because we don't have any mana because we're reserving all of our mana. So keep that in mind. So, and then Molten Shell, we have that. I think that's why I had that increased duration, but it's okay. So Molten Shell, we're going to have that, and we're going to have that on our left click so that it is automatically casting, and it's just going to give us a nice damage shield. It's about 1,000 damage shield and also some armor, so pretty nice there. Vol Arctic Armor, I do have this. You guys don't have to use this. I use Vol Arctic Armor when I'm farming Uber Shaper. It's that stupid bullet ball phase where there's balls everywhere and they instantly kill you no matter pretty much what build you are. I hate it, but apparently this is fantastic, and one of my people in my chat for when I was streaming told me to do this, and it was genius, is just use the Vol Arctic Armor. So basically what it is for like 5 seconds you're immune to physical and cold damage. So basically what you do in Uber Shaper is you stand at the very bottom right side of the map there, and when maybe like 2 seconds after he starts that bullet phase, you pop this and you're going to survive pretty much every single time. I've survived every single time, and I've done a ton of these. Vol Arctic Armor, big brain, love it. You don't have to do it if you're not doing Uber Shaper. War Banner is going to give us extra damage. Nearby enemies take 12% increased physical damage. Very good. You do have to be near them, but that's totally fine because we are pretty tanky, and you don't even really need this. It's just kind of like extra overkill damage. Sure, why not? Cold Snap, we're going to have Cold Snap, Bone Chill, Life Tap, Frostbite. So one thing about Frostbite is, sure, it's great, but I actually kill stuff so fast that I don't even get to cast Frostbite. So technically, you don't have to do that. Maybe you even could do like an enhanced level 3 or 4 here to get your Bone Chill up even more for your Cold Snap. That might be a good thing to do. So Cold Snap, basically what you're going to do is you're just going to throw Cold Snap right under the boss whenever you're about to throw all your traps out, and it's going to make him take more cold damage. Pretty good. And again, you want to use that Life Tap. And I think that is it. We already talked about Devouring Totem. Cool. That is all your gems. Again, pretty straightforward. This is a pretty easy build, honestly, to kind of put together. Okay, so let's talk about our items. And I'm going to probably do, well, I guess we can start with the bow. It's interesting. So this bow, and this is not actually going to be your bow that you're going to have. Let's fix that real quick because it messed up. This is my in-game bow, so I don't want to put this in here because it's obviously not the bow that you're going to have when you have your in-game. Where is it? Soul Fletch. We're going to go to edit, and we're just going to make sure that this is kind of accurate compared to what you would have here. So let's do... Let's get rid of these. Let's get rid of the global damage. Damage while focused. Sorry, guys. We're not going to have cast speed. And it's a pretty easy thing to craft as well. We don't have this. And we don't have this. Okay, cool. So that is what your bow is going to look like for your low-level budget version build. Basically what you want to do is literally just get a bow that has the 600% life as physical damage explodey on the totems. That's the only node that you need, right? Literally that's it. And you're going to roll it with just alterations and augments to get +1 a level of socketed gems. You're going to do that, and then you're going to augment it to get the 2 mods, and then you're going to regal it to get 3 mods, and then after you get 3 mods, all you do is just craft on +2 to level socketed sport gems, which is 2 exalts, so about 30 chaos. And yeah, and the reason we're doing that is because we have an empower in there, like I said, so that is +3 to the levels of the empower, so that's an additional 3 gem levels just from that empower, and also from it's crazy. It's so much damage and it's so cheap. That craft is literally, like I said, 30 chaos. So this is the bow that you're going to start with. Obviously the best base bow that you can get this on is a Maraketh bow for that 10% increased move speed. You don't have to in the base version of the budget version, so don't worry about it if you don't. But yeah, this is what you're looking like for the budget version, this bow right here. Moving on to the weapon, we have Asphyxia's Wrath. The reason we're doing that here is because gain 20% of physical damage is extra cold damage. Again, we're scaling our base physical damage of the totems by a lot, so any type of like extra physical as whatever is crazy damage, and this comes with a base 20. You can also get implicit on here. You can get lightning, cold, fire, chaos, doesn't matter, it's just extra more damage. So like on this one, I think I bought this for literally 1 chaos. Gains 12% of physical damage, extra lightning damage. And by the way, the bow itself, just getting the 600% life as extra physical on a bow is about 1 to 2 divines. To craft this, probably you're looking at max 2 to 2.5 divines, I think, for a bow. Maybe if the prices go up a little bit, I have no clue, but if they don't go up, you're looking at probably about 1.5 divines to get a base bow to start your build out. So pretty cheap to get this going. And literally 1 chaos for this one. The helmet, literally 5 chaos. It's just a heat shiver. Basically doubles your damage. Absolutely crazy. Body armor, we're going to go with basically just a defensive chest. Pretty easy. Try and get some resistance on there, try and get some spell suppression, and then just get as much evasion rating and energy shield as possible. You don't even need that much life. Like literally mine has 24 life, so don't think that you need a ton of life. It is important, however, to get the implicits there. So we want hatred, increase aura effect, and we also want increased aura effect from non-curse auras from your skills. It is better to get in the presence of a unique monster, or even better, if you're farming uber pinnacle bosses, in the presence of a pinnacle boss, you can get so much increased aura effect. So keep that in mind. You absolutely do want those 2 nodes because it is pretty big for your damage. For gloves, this is the cheap version of what we want to do. It's 30, what I think the roll is 30 to 35 physical damage converted to cold damage. You do want to get a little bit of life, and you definitely need the dexterity on this. Try and have an open suffix to either craft spell suppress damage, or try and find one that has spell suppress damage on it. These are super cheap. I think I bought these for 20 chaos, and there was a ton of them listed as well. Boots, very straightforward here. It's just the torch oak step. The reason for doing that is because it has 30% increased totem life. I bought these for literally 2 chaos. Very good. Again, we're trying to scale our totem life as much as possible, so these are best in slot for sure. For our amulet, we're going to go with something like this. This is pretty cheap. When I bought this was about 80 chaos. If it goes up in price a little bit, you basically just don't have to get that +1 to level of all skill gems. The main things that you want to get here is dex and strength, and a little bit of resistance if you can. And then after that, get the +1 to level all skill gems for even more damage. We do want to allocate ironwood with this build for our amulet. Ironwood is absolutely crazy damage. It's 30% increased totem life, very good, and you also get some more armor when those totems are about to pop, so not too bad there. And it's very cheap, clear, amber, and teal oils, so very good there. Moving back to our items here, our ring Circle of Guilt is also pretty cheap. Imagine that. So the biggest thing that we're going for here is Herald of Purity buff effect. Basically what Herald of Purity is more physical damage, so that buff effect is very good because that is a more multiplier. If you are able to get one also with increased physical damage while affected by Herald of Purity, that is very solid as well. This one right here cost me 5 chaos. If you get like a perfect rolled one, I think I bought my in-game version one for 2 divines. Moving on to our second ring here, we have basically just a ring with a ton of resistances, some life, and dex. We do want a lot of dex for this build because to use our bows, like for example, if you're going with a Maraketh bow, you do need like, 222 dex, and we don't get that much dex on the tree because we're up here mostly, which is like intellect, right? So you are getting a lot of dex on your gear. I tried to go with one that had a little bit extra evasion as well. I think I've got about 3,400 evasion, so it's not too bad. It's not great, but it's not too bad. Cool, so that's what I would do for the ring. I think maybe if you have an open suffix, you could throw on +1 to minimum frenzy charge. Sure, that's not bad. I like this belt, the Darkness Enthroned. It's crazy now. So now it used to give 50% increase effect with Socketed Abyss Jewels. Now it gives up to 100%. I think this is actually one of the best belts that you can have, period. Because you can put in some crazy good jewels and you get so much from them. So for example, what I have here is literally just Dex and All Resist. So that 9% All Resist for me turns into 19% it turns into 18% increased all elemental resistances. We also have, I think it turns out to be like 25 or something dexterity and a little bit of increased damage as well. One thing to note is 5% increased damage does affect your totem. Spell damage, or flat cold dispels, all that type of stuff does not work for this build. So no spell damage, no totem damage, none of that. Damage, physical, cold, stuff like that works. Area of effect damage does not work either, so keep that in mind kind of when you're looking for some of this stuff. So yeah, you definitely want one jewel with some dex on there, and then try and get it also with some elemental resist. For your second one, I just went with pretty solid life and some elemental resist. Again, that 10% turns into, for me, 19% all res. That's pretty solid, and it also turns into almost 70 life as well, so pretty good. And then the cool thing is that other one there, you can either get chance to avoid poison or chance to avoid being stunned, and you can turn that 44% into like almost 90%. So basically almost immunity to poison or being stunned just from one jewel in the Darkness Enthroned. I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty solid right there. For our flasks here, you do want a life flask with Corrupting Blood immunity. Pretty basic there. We do want Taste of Hate. Taste of Hate is crazy for this build. I think this Taste of Hate are a little bit more expensive. I think they're about a divine, maybe a little bit less if you don't get a perfect roll. The perfect roll would be right there, the 15% damage as extra cold. Again, we want to get that physical as extra. That's just so much more damage for us, right? So this is very good. Now you do want to, depending on what content you're doing, I'm doing bosses. So when you're doing bosses, you want to enchant it, if you can see it right there with Enkindling Orbs for 68% increase effect. So it's just way more damage, right? We also have Itziri's Promise, which is double dipping because we're scaling both our physical and elemental damage. So it's basically just 16% more damage right there. Very good. Again, we want to get increased effect. So it's actually probably like, what, 25% more damage for just this flask. Very, very good. We have a sulfur flask here. Pretty basic. There's really not too much that you can get here. I think this is pretty much an open slot. 40% increased damage is nice, so I went with that there. And then the 17% cast speed doesn't really help this. If you get the slave driver gloves, then it does help it, but not for this, so not a big deal. And then I did go with a Quicksilver. I do think it is nice to get a Quicksilver that has additional move speed on it, because our boots only do have 25% move speed on them, so you're a little slow. So getting a good Quicksilver with some extra movement speed is pretty nice. Moving on to our clusters here, let's go to our first large, and these are the exact same for both of our clusters. We do have two. We're going to go with Master the Fundamentals, Ironbreaker, Force Multiplier. The best one there being Force Multiplier, the second best being Ironbreaker, and the third being Master the Fundamentals. So if you can't get all three, I'm actually not sure what the prices on these are. When I got it, it was only like 50 chaos, but I think they've gone up now to maybe like 1 divine. If you can't get it, like I said, Force Multiplier is the best. Just get a Force Multiplier or just an Ironbreaker and an 8 passive, and you're chilling. You're doing totally fine. That is your large. It's a ton of damage. As you can see, that's just so much extra physical damage. It's really, really good. For our mediums, you're going to get 2 of the same thing as well. We're going to get Agent of Destruction and Purposeful Harbinger. We do have, like I said, 2, what are they called? Herald. Good lord. We do have 2 heralds, so that is pretty good with Purposeful Harbinger. Agent of Destruction is pretty nice because it gives us some elemental damage. And it also gives us a chance to shock, which is very good. So now we are shocking for an extra 15% more multiplier. Moving on to our jewels. This is a very basic jewel. You basically just want to get 12% totem life and then maybe a couple other things, either resistances or like this. It just has the increased damage on there. Very cheap. I think I bought this for literally 1 chaos. Same thing here, literally 1 chaos. Then this was the extra large. And then I think down here, so this is another option that you can do is totem life, increase damage, and maybe if you can get some extra dex, some extra strength, pretty good, because like I said, we are kind of hurting for dex and strength. And our last one here is we have more totem life and damage. And then this one here, totem life, we actually do have the best, of course, is if you can get one with increased maximum life as well, and getting some dex on there as well. Pretty good. So that is our stats and our gear. So as you can tell down here, it doesn't have a DPS. I don't know how to set this up. I am not big brain enough to be able to give you guys a DPS number, but I don't think it really matters because as you can tell, the bosses just instantly die in uber pinnacle content. So pretty good, basically, is what it is, right? So that's the budget version of the build. Let's go ahead and move on to the in-game final version of the build. Not much has changed. Let's kind of go over it here. The only thing that has changed is we do have a we are adding an extra aura. We are now adding determination. We did not have determination in the low budget version. So we are adding determination now, and in order to do that, we do need this small cluster jewel with uncompromising for determination, increased mana reservation efficiency. So we do get that. And everything else I think is the exact same. Let's go over our skills. You do want to check the skills. They are slightly different because, like I said, we are going with determination now, and we are having to use an enlighten. So keep that in mind. We have to use an enlighten. And I think we have to use 2 enlightens. We use a level 3, and then where are you? We use a level 1, or I'm sorry, a level 2 right here. Now I do have my boots here. I do have +1 to level of socketed gem boots, and I have an Enlighten in there. So actually my 3 is going to a 4. So keep that in mind. I actually don't know. Let's see what happens here. Let's go to my auras. I'm going to go down 1. Okay, so it looks like you're fine. So actually you can do just a level 3 and be fine if you don't have the boots that I have, which are the +1 level socketed gems. You don't need that. Just get a regular one and you'll be fine with an Enlighten level 3 and you'll be chilling. So that's our auras here. We have Discipline, Determination, Enlighten, and Hatred. Those are our auras. We have the same stuff: Cold Snap, Life Tap, Frostbite, Bone Chill. Again, if you want to switch out Frostbite for Enhance, that's probably pretty good. Herald of Ash, Herald of Purity. I have my portals because I like portals. Molten Shell, Life Tap, Flame Dash, my Vault Arctic Armor. You don't have to use that. I'll do it for Uber Shaper. Items. All right, so we have some slight differences here, mainly because we now have Heat Shiver that also has Hatred, has increased mana reservation efficiency. Again, that is to get our Determination to be able to use. I'll be able to use that. It is better as well to get an Asphyxious Wrath with physical as extra cold as the implicit, so we can scale that cold with Hatred. So that is best in slot. I have a almost perfect Circle of Guilt. Pretty cool. Let's see. My Torch, like I already said, has +3, so all of my auras are getting +3 levels, so that's pretty cool. My weapon. Okay, so here is the best 4 passive that you can get for a weapon, right? So your tier 1 node is going to be global damage. There's a whole bunch of different types of global damage, but really anything is fine. And the best one is this 60% increased global damage. And then it's like 20% increased cost of skills, which doesn't matter because that literally doesn't affect us at all. So 60% global damage is very good. Next, we have the totems summon, or have a 70% chance to summon a second totem. Okay, this is very, very important because we are also getting this node right here. Skills that would summon a totem have 30%. So that 30% plus that 70% means every time you summon a totem, it's actually summoning 2 totems. It literally doubles our damage. Double damage. Crazy. So that is for the, I think that's in our tier 3 slot. I missed our tier 2 slot. Our tier 2 slot is Magebane. So we have Magebane. What is Magebane? Magebane is this right here. So Dexterity provides no inherent bonus to evasion, 1% spell suppression chance per 15 Dexterity. So that is how we are able to get spell suppression capped. We're almost spell suppression capped, at least in this one. I think I maybe changed one item out and had a little bit more. But yeah, so I'm almost spell suppression capped at 86%. So very good getting that Magebane. It adds, I think it adds maybe like, what was it? It was like 18% or so spell suppression for that. So very good. And that is certainly the best tier 2 node that we can get for this build specifically. Going back to our items, the 4th one, of course, is going to be the Totem Explosion one. That one is obviously mandatory. So that is our tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 perfect slots. I did get this. Like I said, I'm going to release a video on exactly how I made this bow. So if you're interested in figuring out how to craft this bow, check that video. It's going to be linked in the description below. As far as the bow itself, we have +1 in level of socketed gems. We also have 44% increased cast speed, which is going to go with our slave drivers, which I'll talk about here shortly. We have gained 17% physical damage as extra cold, just a more multiplier there. We have level 2 socketed support gems. That's going for our Empower and our Enhance. Very good. And we also have 26% chance to deal double damage while focused. Now, funny thing about this one is I forgot to put this on my bar when I was killing like 90% of those Uber Pinnacle bosses. So I was literally missing out on 26% more damage when I was killing all those bosses and instantly killing them all. That's just how much overkill damage that we have in this. There are some cases where you might get like an Uber Pinnacle Exarch that has like increased life and increased energy shield, or increased extra energy shield, right? So if you get something like that, that is when this does come into effect, and you're able to see that 26% more damage actually mean something. But if you're just doing like a white or a no HP modded Uber Pinnacle boss, then you probably don't even need it. Like I said, I didn't even have it on accident and it was totally fine. Okay, yeah, so that is the craft, and that is the perfect 4 passive for your bow. And we want it on a Mariketh bow for that 10% increased movement speed. Pretty cool. I think Everything else was fine. Let's go to the gloves. So we do have slave drivers. These are about 11 divines in the current market. Now the reason these are very good is because of a couple things. Skills which throw traps cost life instead of mana. Very good. This is what allows us to not have to use Eldritch Battery. Now we can use all of our mana still when we're getting all of our auras done, but we don't have to use Eldritch Battery because they are now costing life instead of mana. So, or life instead of energy shield, right? Very, very good. Increases and reductions at cast speed also apply to trap throwing speed. So now we're throwing traps way faster. It's very good because we do get some cast speed on the build. Like I said, we have that 44 on the bow here. So yeah, we have really good throwing trap speed, and we also are able to use life instead of energy shield, so that frees up that, and that basically allows us to get all of this energy shield, almost 2k, as now a defensive layer instead of using it to cast your mana. So before that we were only at 2800 HP, and even then I wasn't dying. I still did a ton of maps with that, but once you switch over to this, it's like, I don't know, it just feels really good. You're always capped on energy shield. You feel even safer basically. So keep that in mind. I think that's pretty much it. I did get a Bottled Faith. The critical strike chance doesn't matter for us, but the 10% more damage taken to enemies is very good. So I did get that. Now the last piece here is the Watcher's Eye. Because we are now using gloves that are slave drivers, we have gotten rid of our gloves that have cold conversion on them, right? So we're going to now pick that up with a Watcher's Eye that has up to 40% increased physical damage converted to cold. These are relatively cheap. They're only about 1 divine. Who knows if the price is going to go up, but as of right now, they're only about 1 divine to pick this up. Very, 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 very big damage for that one. And then, like I said, we have the 2 Forbidden Flushes. I went with Polymath because it does give me 30% more damage. Crazy. And I did not feel that I needed Soul Drinker for the extra defense. As you can tell here, Soul Drinker gives me about 11% more, and then defense, I felt like I didn't need the defense, so I just went with the 30% more multiplier with Polymath. And like I said earlier, the 1% to life and energy shield on kill is pretty nice as well. That's kind of like a defense, and I like it better, but it's a little bit more expensive, and who knows if the price is going to go up on those or not. The second best one, Soul Drinker. Third best one, one step ahead. Fourth, Escape Artist. And I wonder if there's even maybe a good one over an Assassin. I don't know. You guys can check that out. But that is the Forbidden Jewels. You definitely want to get a set of Forbidden Jewels for this build. I think that is it. Like I said earlier, we do have, where are you? These jewels right here. It is best to get 12% totem life and also increase maximum life. Try and get that, as well as maybe some attributes, right? Cool. That is it for the high budget version of the build. This is absolutely doing a billion plus damage. The guy that I was looking at to kind of base this off of, he was doing 1 billion DPS, and when I was tinkering around with his POB and I switched it to my gear, I switched it to Saboteur, I got the Polymath, I was doing 1.3 billion DPS with all the gear that I had in my tree. So and I have no clue if his calculations are correct. I'm not saying they are, I'm not saying they're not either. I just don't know how to do that crap, so I'm trusting it. Either way, all these bosses are instantly dying, so it's gotta be in the billions. There's no way that it's not in the billions with how much or how fast they're dying. Okay, cool. So that is the Path of Buildings. Let's go ahead and move on to real quick to the trade links. If you guys do not know how to use better POE trading app extension, it is an app extension you can use for, like I have here, my browser is GX, so I have Opera GX. It's basically like Chrome, so if you use Chrome as well, you can get an app extension. It's going to be linked in the description below. It's called Better Trading. It goes directly onto the trade website. Very, very good. I suggest every single PoE player use this, and it stores builds for you, and you can literally just click it around and it takes you directly to the link. And I have linked every single item in this build for you guys, from your first items to the very last items that you should be buying, right? So your first item is obviously your bow, and then you've got your gloves for the conversion, heat shiver, right? So from your first item to your ending item, That is going to be linked in the description as well. Basically what it is it's going to be a link to this GitHub right here. I know there's been some issues in the past with some of my builds with like paste bin not working after a certain amount of time, the haste bin not working. I think we're finally good on GitHub. I think this should work just fine. So basically what you want to come down here, don't copy this link up here, not the actual link. You actually want to go down here and you're going to want to click all this. And you're going to want to copy this. You're going to want to go back to the trade link, and down here where it says import folder, you're going to click that, and you're going to import code. You're just going to paste that there and save it, and there you go. And that is all of your items for the Atomic Totems build. Very good. If you guys are interested in my what's it called, my filter links, I have a lot of people that do like those filter links. You can click that in the description as well. The one that I use is in-game min-max. That is the one that I use. Pretty good. I like it. It's very fine-tuned for boss rushing specifically, so if that's something you're interested in, that is a good filter to use. And I think that's it, guys. This is an absolutely crazy build. It's gonna go away forever after this league for sure, because I don't think Crucible trees are coming. If I remember correctly, they said that this is a one-time thing. So after this league, you're never going to be able to get this again. So I would absolutely suggest, if this looks cool, try it out. The budget version is literally a few divines to get rolling, and you can kill uber pinnacle bosses and be tanky. And then the big boy version, you're doing billion plus damage and very tanky, and it's just, I don't know, it's crazy. It's one of the funnest builds I've played in a long time. I like traps as well. You're throwing traps so fast. It's just a really smooth play style. Ailment immune, so pretty good there too. It just feels comfy. It feels really fun to play, and I've had a blast on it. So if you guys do try this, let me know in the comments and let me know how it's going for you guys. If y'all are playing a different version of the build as well, let me know that too. I'm curious to see how that's going, and what I would be even more curious to see is if you like maybe played the poison version and maybe you want to try this one out and then kind of compare them and see how you guys like the two. Let me know. I'm super curious to hear about that. So yeah, that's all I got on this one, guys. Sorry it was a little bit longer of a video, but I did want to get you guys everything you need to know. So yeah, I hope it helps, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.